And we'll start in a comfortable seated position. Props wise, let's see. For today's class, make sure you have one brick, at least one brick, maybe two, and a bolster which is optional, but it might be nice to have just for support for some of the postures. You may find that you don't actually need it. So just finding a comfortable tall seat and arriving into your space here. Softening into your sitting bones. Softening the mind. Softening your heart. And just starting to notice your breath. Notice where the breath is traveling to today. Notice if the breath is quite shallow and around the top area of the body. Notice if it's broadening into the ribcage and expanding it sideways. Notice if the upper back is getting a little bit of broadening also when you inhale. And let's try to deepen the breath a little bit. So allowing for those expansions and broadenings in the areas I mentioned, if that's not already happening. And also allowing the diaphragm to move down so that the belly expands, taking full and nourishing breaths. Notice if your shoulders have crept up a little bit. Notice if any tension has crept into the body anywhere. And see if you can encourage the breath there to soften. As the body stills, we start to slow down from our day. As the breath becomes a little bit more uniform, a little more steady, notice that the mind will follow. Everything working together in harmony. We're going to start our practice today with a little bit of pranayama. So Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing. So let's take the left hand into Chin Mudra or Jnana Mudra, expanding the last three fingers and resting the thumb lightly on top of the forefinger. The right hand, first two fingers are going to fold in, and then the ring finger and the pinky finger and the thumb are going to be your levers. So just placing the ring finger against your left nostril and your thumb against your right, and just having a little play with closing and opening each side. Take another breath here, perhaps exhaling through the mouth. And then we'll start. Closing off the left side first, inhale through the right. Close, open the left side and exhale through that side. Inhale that same left side. Close, open right side and exhale through the right side. Again, inhaling right side. Close, open left, exhale. Inhaling left. Close, open right, exhale. Inhale right. Close, open left, exhale. Inhale left. Close, open right, exhale. Inhale right. Close, open left side, exhale. Inhale left. Close, exhale right. Twice more each side. Inhale right. Close, open left, exhale. Inhale left. Close, open right, exhale. Inhale right last time. Close, open left, exhale left. Inhale left last time. Close, open right, and exhale fully and completely. And releasing your hand down to the knee, same thing. Chin mudra in the same position as the left hand. Just taking a moment to take a couple of breaths, just free breathing here. And slowly turn your hands down so the palms are facing down. And just begin to orbit on the spot, making some circles, easing into the spine, nice soft shoulders. And take it round in the opposite direction. And gently come back to a standstill. From here, if you'd like to, cross your legs the other way. We'll do some twists and some lateral stretches with the spine. So from here, fingertips down, inhale, reach the arms. Exhale, twist to your right. Left hand comes onto your knee, right hand behind you. Press into those the right fingertips, and lift the heart as you make yourself a little second spine here. Gently gazing over that shoulder. Keep the shoulders soft. And inhale, reach the arms again. Exhale over to the other side, left hand behind you this time. Press into those fingertips, lift the heart, and gaze over the left shoulder. And slowly begin to unravel, come back to center. Fingertips down again. Inhale, right side, over to the left, and we'll make this a little bit of flow. So reaching back up over to the opposite side, left arm comes over. Move with your breath. Reaching back up, exhale left. Inhale, center, exhale, right. Nice and fluid, nice and controlled. Take that twice more on each side, really reaching the top arm, getting that lovely stretch all the way down the sides. And we'll meet back in neutral when you're done. From here, let's come into tabletop and we'll just take a couple of rounds of cat-cow, but with child's pose as well. Hands spread nice and wide underneath the shoulders, hips above the knees. Engage your core so the belly doesn't hang and you don't drag the lower back in. Slowly inhale, shoulders back, lift the heart, drop your belly and gaze up. As you exhale, press into the mat, doming the upper back, navel to spine, and then sink back to child's pose. And rise back up to tabletop. Again, repeat, coming into cow. Exhale, curl under for cat. Sink back, child's pose. Twice more in your own breath time. We'll meet back in tabletop. And then from here, coming into our first posture. So you have the option to have your bolster to hand, and I'll show you how to use that. I must admit, this is a bit of a mean posture to start with, but it's a really nice all-round posture. So this can be used for any season. So we're going to come into frog. So taking the knees wide, have your feet out so they're pointing away from the body, okay? And then just take the knees comfortably wide. You don't want to be feeling any huge sensation inside the leg here, okay? If it's uncomfortable in the knee, please pad out with a blanket or something else. You want to make sure the hips stay in line with the knees, not back, not too far forwards. You can push them back a little bit, keep them roughly knee height. Coming onto your forearms, if that's comfortable, you can let your head come down. You can use a brick as well for your forehead to rest on. So you can stay here. Keep the core active. So again, we don't have that belly dragging down, pulling the lower back in, so we're squishing it. The other option is to come onto your front and hang out here, a little bit deeper. And if you want, same thing, but with the bolster. So we've got the support of the bolster. Either you can use it for your forearms and stay here, or you can sink your chest down and just have it rest under the armpits and to support you a little bit so you're nice and relaxed, but you're not so far down. Okay? We're going to stay in this one for 4 minutes, and then we're going to follow it up with 1 minute each side for a twist. So find your comfortable frog. If this is really uncomfortable for you, it's hurting your ankles, your feet, whatever else, just like in child's pose, bring the feet in, big toes touching rather than out the way. Okay, so the legs just come in and the big toes touch. So you've got a V shape between the feet, between the calves, rather than this parallel thing going on with your shins. So that's an option. Very gently try to relax into the hips. See where you can soften and let go, but see where you do need to hold on in order to keep the integrity of the posture. So this is one of those very active yang yin postures, lots going on. But you can relax in several areas. So just pinpointing where needs to stay engaged and where can soften. So the theme that we're working with today is very simply forgiveness. This could mean a multitude of things for many people. It might mean a multitude of things for you. Just thinking about what forgiveness actually means and how it impacts you. When we forgive other people, how does this make us feel? Usually it feels like there's quite a weight off our shoulders. And then we think about forgiving ourselves, which is more the focus in today's class. Forgiving ourselves for being harsh on ourselves, for expecting and for judging ourselves. We are only human, so it's undoubtedly a trait that we'll display at one point or another, be it openly, vocally, loudly, or quietly, internally. So if you found that you've given yourself a hard time for something that maybe in retrospect you think, actually, would I have given someone else such a hard time for something like that? And if the answer is no, then think about forgiveness and what this might mean for you. Perhaps you'll feel that same sense of relief as forgiving somebody else. Take one more breath here. And then if you're on a support such as your bolster or your forehead's on a brick, just gently lifting yourself up onto your hands, move the bolster out the way. And then from here, lift up the right arm, open the chest and slowly thread it underneath the left side. Reach as far as you can, stack your shoulders and bring the shoulder down. Make sure the hips are still in line with your knees and make sure you can get the shoulder onto the mat. If not, use a blanket for a little bit more support. And then the left arm can reach forwards or maybe up, internal rotation and down behind you to add another layer of summer element. And we're just going to hold that for 1 minute. So getting that lovely shoulder stretch at the back of the shoulder for the underneath shoulder. And if your arm is up and winding down behind you, getting that stretch across the front of the shoulder on the left side. This is a really nice all-round summer posture to open the heart space, our heart meridians, a little bit of TLC for our intestines, small and large, and also giving the lungs a bit of attention as well. Taking just one more breath here. If your arm is up and around, just gently unwind it, bring it back around to the front, support yourself and unthread. Come back to neutral, both hands under your shoulders. Lift up the left arm, open the chest, exhale, thread that arm underneath the right side, reach as far as you can, find that little bit of stacking of the shoulders, bring the left shoulder down, bring your cheek down, and then choose what you'd like to do with your right arm. Again, make sure that you're comfortable and the pressure is adequate. You're not rolling into any specific direction so that it's uncomfortable. Connect to your breath and keep a little activity in the core area. That's the front, the sides, and the back. One more breath here. Again, slowly begin to unwind. Bring yourself back to the center, back onto your hands, and then very, very slowly start to inch your knees in one at a time, slowly bringing them all the way together, slightly behind the hips, so just shuffling them back a little bit, and then just dropping the hips over to one side, and through center over to the other side. And you can repeat that one more time if that feels good. And then coming to a seat. You'll need one brick or two for this next posture. You may wish to have a cushion instead of a second brick. We're going to come to a heart opener, supported fish posture. So we want the two bricks behind us, like so. And this one here is going to go underneath the chest. So here, but we want to make sure the shoulders are slipping over the edge of the brick rather than on the brick, okay? So it's just supporting underneath. You can just see the scapula just reaching over. So slipping over like so, okay? So bring your feet up nice and wide, knees bending. Keep your feet like this and then recline over the brick. And just shuffle yourself till it's just right and you can just feel the shoulders slipping over. They shouldn't be massively far back with a huge gap between the scapula and the brick. You want them just to slip over so the upper part of the chest here is nice and supported. And then rest your head on the other brick or onto a pillow. Arms overhead if that feels okay. Breathing here, have a good stretch out. And then take the feet nice and wide, toes point forwards, knees fall in. Point your tailbone, lengthen the lower back, and just make sure you have an all-round good bit of space here. If it's not so comfortable to have your arms overhead, then just keep them by your side or take them wide. See if you can invite any more breath into the ribcage, the lungs, the belly. Allowing for that lovely lengthening of the spine. Take 2 more deep, full and nourishing breaths here, expanding the chest in all directions, up the sides and into the brick. And then lowering the arms back down by your sides if they're still overhead. Gently pressing into the elbows, start to roll yourself to one side, coming off the bricks, and remove the bricks, come back to the mat and lie flat. Softening here, letting everything recalibrate, let the spine settle, the chest settle. If it's very sensitive, just breathe slowly and allow for a little more time. And then bringing the knees into the chest when you're ready. Giving yourself a hug and a little bit of roll time over the lower back. You're very welcome to bring your knees wide, hug them down to the armpits. We're going to make our way up to seated and come to lie on our fronts next. So no more props for the next few postures. We don't need them anymore. So coming to lie on your front, we're going to come into 2 shoulder openers. So these are quite intense, so really take your time with this one, especially the second one. We don't want to knacker our ligaments, so just be really gentle with how far you go. So coming to lie, taking your arms wide, bringing your legs together, just letting your heels fall out to the side, just taking a moment to lie and get accustomed to the ground. And then bringing your chin onto the mat, lift the head, bring the left arm over to the right side, and then bring the right arm over to the left side so you have crisscross arms. And then shuffle the elbows in towards you, under the chest. They might be stacked, they might be slightly off center, which is fine. Reaching the hands a little further if that feels okay, bringing the elbows a bit more off center, but if it's too much, dial back, make sure that they're still a little bit more stacked rather than really far apart, okay? Keep your hands flat on the mat. You will be a little bit lopsided here, but that's totally fine. And then drop your head, your chin down, maybe resting on the bicep and just hanging out here. Let your weight settle into your elbows. Let the whole body be heavy. This is one of those ones where there's really not any engagement in the body at all. Everything is resting on the skeletal structure of the elbows. The rest of the body is just lying flat on the mat. All you need to do is just breathe and be heavy. Let the upper back gently open, especially as you inhale. Let yourself soften on each exhale. Just tuning in to notice if anything has come up for you here. Be that physically or mentally, notice the sensations. See if you can sit with them rather than react, and see what happens. Two more breaths here. And very gently start to lift up the head. Begin to unwind the arms, bringing yourself back to center. Take a moment to lie flat, gazing in one direction. And whenever you're ready, take the second side. Right arm comes over first, and then crossing the left arm over that one. Again, shuffle the elbows in underneath you, so towards you, and maybe the elbows a little wider by creeping the hands a little further away from the midline. Once you're comfortable, settle on an exhalation and drop your head down so chin comes towards your forearms, your upper arms rather. Words escape me. And again, just coming back to the theme of forgiveness. Has there ever been a time where you have given yourself a bit of a hard time because in a yoga class you haven't been able to get into a posture when you've really wanted to, and you've perhaps beaten yourself up about that? Maybe all sorts had gone through your mind, but at the end of the day it impacted you not in a positive way. Perhaps you're able to forgive yourself for that, for the way you spoke to yourself that one time. It's happened another time that you can recall. Perhaps forgive yourself for that time too. For every time that you feel you may have failed in your own eyes, for every time that you didn't do something like you might have expected it to turn out, know that you're always doing your best with the tools that you have. With the knowledge that you have, and with the skills that you have accrued through your lifetime so far. It's impossible to paint a masterpiece without first being taught the way of the artist. So allow yourself to do your best. Know that you are doing your best. And forgive yourself for all the times you've done your best, but you still have given yourself a hard time. Two more breaths here. And again, very slowly begin to lift your head. Start to bring the arms back into neutral, into a T shape as you lie, and let everything settle. We're going to stay here for the next set of postures, and this one I want you to be particularly mindful with how far you go so that we don't overstretch. So gazing over to your left side,
Bring the left hand under the shoulder. Make sure the right hand is directly in line with your right shoulder. Fingers are spread wide, and this is how they stay. They don't turn or lift off, or the palm doesn't turn to face up the way, okay? And then press into that left hand and begin to roll over the right shoulder. If it's just a little bit and that's plenty for you, bend your knee and place your foot in front of you so that you don't kind of boing out of it, and keep your hand here in front of you to support you. Keep spreading these fingers wide. If you'd like to go a little further, by all means do, but just don't overstretch. Notice the front of the shoulder, and if it's really, really intense, we don't want to go that far at all. Definitely dial back 10% if that's where you're at. Your leg can also come behind you, adding a little bit of spinal twist, and your arm can also come behind you if you wish. So resting the head down nice and heavy, slowly bring yourself into our broken wing posture. We're going to stay here for the same amount of time as the previous posture. Two more breaths. And then with utmost control, begin to slowly unwind and roll yourself back down onto your front. So just be very careful not to bounce out of it, no jerky movements, and take the arms wide once more. And then turn your gaze to face the right way. Left hand is directly in line with your left shoulder, fingers spread nice and wide. And we'll take the opposite side. So bring the right arm in under the shoulder and start to press so that you roll over the left arm. Again, making sure we don't go too far, bend that knee, place it either in front or behind your thigh to stop you from rolling out of it. Place your head down on the mat nice and heavy, and then choose where you'd like to be.
Just checking in with the sensation level of the front of the shoulder now. If you're feeling it very intensely and you think, I can't possibly go any further, dial back at least 20%. If you're feeling it quite intensely and think, I could probably go a bit further, but you're feeling it very intensely, dial back 10%. So we want to have a very small, if at all, any sensation. Keeping it soft and manageable. Allow your eyes to be nice and soft and your jaw to be fully relaxed. Two more breaths. And again, begin to unwind yourself nice and slow, nice and with ease. Coming back to lie down in your T-shape, take a moment to rest and recoup here. And then when you're ready in your own time, bring your hands under your shoulders, maybe slightly behind, and push yourself up into a seat, maybe child's pose briefly if you wish. No rush. Our final posture is going to be Bananasana. And we're going to come to lie on the mat for this one. No props needed. Lying flat and outstretched. Just taking a moment to get used to the ground. And then bending into the knees. And then press into the feet to lift the hips, and move them over to the left side. And then straighten your legs once more. Just heel toeing the feet over to the right and then crossing left leg over, but make sure you're not lifting the hips off the mat here, okay? The whole of the back side is still grounded. And then reaching the arms overhead, just head, shoulder your way over, shimmy over like a caterpillar to the right side. So you've got this crescent moon shape. And then grab a hold of your left wrist, give it a little bit of a tug, and then adjust your head position and maybe gaze over the left armpit. Finding that lovely stretch down the left side. We're just going to hold this one for 2 and a bit minutes each on each side. So if it's too much with the legs, feel free to uncross them. And feel free to also let go of the wrist if that's too much. You just need to get a little bit of a gentle curve here. It doesn't need to be too intense at all. If there's loads of sensation, definitely dialing back. So making sure that you're comfortably grounding the back side of the body. Take 2 more breaths. Very slowly bringing your gaze back to the center. Slowly uncross the legs, let go of the wrist, and slowly, slowly bring yourself back to the midline of the mat. Pop the hips back to the midline, and then reach overhead, squeeze the legs, and give yourself a nice full frontline stretch, recalibrating the spine. And then when you're ready, bringing the feet back onto the mat, bending the knees, pressing, lifting the hips, and moving them over to the right side this time. Straighten the legs out in front of you, and then just gently heel toe your feet over to the left side, crossing the right leg over the left. Again, back side is down. Reach the arms overhead, head, shoulder your way over to the left, and then grab a hold of the right wrist, gently pull, and then find comfort and gaze over to the right if that feels okay. Softening here once more into the posture, dropping in a little more, either physically or mentally. Even if nothing happens, just thinking softness. Just 2 more breaths here. Final exhalation here, softening a little bit more into the posture if you can. Bringing your gaze back up to the center and then very slowly begin to unravel and bring yourself back to the center. Again, bring your hips back to the center and then reach overhead one more time. Give yourself a big long stretch. And then maybe you'd like to bring your knees to your chest for a hug and a roll. Final stop, Shavasana. So take any layers, props, any bits of comfort that you might like for your Shavasana. And find yourself in a comfortable position for final relaxation. Drawing your chin in, lengthening the back of the neck and pointing the tailbone forwards, lengthening the lower back. Have a good wriggle, get comfortable, get any fidgets out the way. And then take a deep breath, hold at the very top. Inhale a little more if you can. And then part the lips and exhale slowly with control out the mouth. Repeat that once more if you wish. Let the eyes be heavy in their sockets, cheeks heavy falling away from the face, shoulders relaxed, heavy on the mat, torso, hips, legs and arms heavy and supported. I can share with you a poem entitled The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. You are, as ever, welcome to stay in Shavasana for as long as you would like to. If you're ready to start moving again, deepen your breath once more. And slowly begin to roll the head from side to side. Wriggle into your fingers and toes, maybe taking an overhead stretch one more time. And again, if you wish, knees to chest, giving yourself a good hug and rolling from side to side. Eventually making your way over to one side, left or right, moon or sun side. Take a breath here in stillness, in the quiet. And then rise up to a seat. Anchor yourself down. Lift your heart high and relax your shoulders. Notice your breath. Hands can come together in Anjali Mudra in front of the heart space, bowing our heads down to our fingertips, bowing down to ourselves, bowing down to each other, and I bow down to you. Om Namah Shivaya. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me.